Angels starting pitcher Grayson Rodriguez. I had to make sure I said that right. How does it sound, man?
Angels.
How you doing?
Yeah, dude, pretty crazy. Was shocked at first, but man, I'm excited. A couple of the guys have already reached out, dude, and I am pumped up. Can I tell you that?
Oh,
So,
baby,
Good.
let's go.
yeah, yeah,
I like it. I like it. Tell me about some of the combos. You don't have to give me the names, obviously, but what have you talked about either with teammates and or with staff about what's coming up for you?
yeah. So, well, when I first heard the news, obviously, Perry, the GM, called me, Kurt Suzuki, and then the day after, talked to Darno, Ohapi, Nito reached out today, Coochie. So, talking to some of these guys, man, has got me really pumped up. I'm fired up and ready to get out there and play with them.
What does that look like for you? What does that look like? Because we don't rarely have guys on here right after they're traded, let alone like a starting pitcher who's, I mean, we're November 21st, so your throwing program has to be kind of at a place where you're getting ready for spring training. How does that look for you? And do you have to like connect with the Angels staff? Let's see, I'm trying to think is it Frosty? Is Frosty the head trainer there? Mike Frostad?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, talked to Frosty already. I mean, everything just kind of transitions over. There's really not much that changes for me. Just kind of staying on the same programs that I'm on. There might be a little tweaks and adjustments. Talking to Mike Maddox, the new pitching coach, has got me excited. So we're going to go over some throwing stuff that we might want to change just a little bit.
Did you know beforehand that this might happen, or was your agent giving you a hint, and were you surprised at all? Like, what was your first thought once you even heard the notion of, this might happen, dude?
Yeah. Saturday, I was at like a charity golf tournament for the high school that I went to. My brother's a senior there. They were doing like a fundraiser, and my agent texted me, and he was like, "Hey, he's like, got a weird call from the Angels. He's like, call me back." And I was like, "Oh Lord, what could this be?" But talked to him, and he just said that that they had reached out and asked like how I was feeling and stuff like that, and he's like, there's probably not going to be anything come of it. Just kind of something that can happen. And then I was flying, me and my wife, we were going down to the Orioles spring training complex in Sarasota Tuesday night. I was going to go down there just for a few days, just to check in, see some of the medical staff there. On the flight, got a text from the Orioles GM saying, "Hey, call me ASAP." And I was like, told my wife, I was like, well, the GM doesn't really want to just chit chat with you at 9 p.m. at night on a Tuesday. Kind of knew something was up there, but got off the plane, called him, and then, kind of found out the news, and got a call from Perry and Kurt soon after, and was super excited. Was shocked at first, but now I'm pretty pumped up about it.
A lot of what I have said about this trade on here has gotten some visceral hate from Orioles fans. And I'm not going to tell you what they've said about you, but I'm going to tell you that on this show, we are impartial. We're not Orioles fans. We're fan of people. And the times that you've come on, you've been injured. We've watched you pitch in real games. Like, I see you as a real person. And I'm going to say this for real. I feel like the Angels, nothing against Taylor Ward, fleeced the Orioles in this trade, because I see you as an elite starting pitcher that has not been on the field as much as you want to be. How do you see yourself? And then I'll continue to ask questions from this standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like I said, I was shocked. It was odd. But I mean, like, what can I say? Like, you know, obviously last year, didn't go how I wanted to. I knew in spring training last year that I was going to really be facing some challenges, with my arm, just because, when I'm throwing at spring training and stuff, which, like it's kind of been talked about a little bit, but I had some bone spurs removed in August, and they've been in there for like 3 or 4 years. Like, this is something that I've dealt with for a while, ever since I was probably in double A, triple A, I want to say. It would kind of come and go. So it was nothing that was like really serious. Um, like I said, like, it'd kind of flare up maybe spring training, beginning of the season, go away, come back, go away. Last year was kind of the first time that it came and like stayed with me. And, we kind of knew that, it was going to be something that I was going to have to battle. And, it's always in the back of your mind having to deal with something like that. And then, kind of having those tweak injuries of the lat, it was just those spurs just really kind of weren't helping the situation. And, like we didn't decide, or we decided to not get the surgery at spring training, and then just kind of got to a point where it was like, I can just, I can't take it. So I had them removed in August, and now I'm throwing, feeling good. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's kind of, it's just kind of weird. I didn't think the Orioles would trade me. But obviously the Angels wanted me bad enough, and it's kind of a cool feeling.
That's actually what I was going to ask you. Do you feel like the Orioles didn't want you, or do you feel like the Angels wanted you bad? Because if you look at the Angels rotation, they're in need of some dudes, and Artie Moreno never goes to like that long extension for pitchers in free agency. Essentially, that's what he got in you. He got a 4-year deal out of Grayson Rodriguez.
Yeah, like I was saying, like I was pretty surprised. It's something that like we've always joked around about. Like me and my wife, like what would happen if we got traded, but it was never something that was kind of like in the picture to us. But I mean, it happened, and like I said, you're kind of sad like at first because most of those guys in the Orioles clubhouse, I came up in the minor leagues with. I mean, like I've known Gunnar and Adley ever since I was 19 years old. So like played with them a while. I'd say, yeah, like kind of leaving your friends behind, but then, seeing like the opportunity that's now in front of you, like to go completely from the East Coast to the West Coast, Orange County, like LA, like, I mean, my wife is super excited to live there. I am too, like the weather's great. Um, Man, like it's just a weird spot, I would say. Like, there's a little bit of sadness, leaving some guys behind that, you grinded with in the minor leagues, but then, looking forward to your new teammates, your new organization, like everything about it is just super, super exciting. So I'm really looking forward to it.
Who was the first guy that texted you from the Orioles? You already mentioned the Angels guys. Did all the Orioles guys, did they lose your number? You get traded and all of a sudden they just deleted your
I don't know. I mean,
contact?
yeah, I mean, there's some of them I haven't heard from. So,
What?
I might have to call them out. Yeah, might have to call them out. But no, I think Gunnar was the first one that reached out, player wise. So yeah, I mean, I knew Gunnar would reach out. There's a couple others that haven't heard from him yet. And it might be because we're in the middle of some fantasy football stuff. The playoffs are neck and neck. They might just hate me from fantasy football right now, but yeah, we'll see. So
That's fair. That's fair. All right. So you talked about the bone. Did you call them bone chips or bone spurs in your elbow?
bone spurs. So they were attached, but I mean just barely. So yeah, they came loose pretty quick. So they weren't floating, but they were definitely there and causing some inflammation in that tricep area.
What about the shoulder? What about the bone chip in your shoulder? Is that cleaned up? Was that something? How long did that bother you? And did it create more of damage? Because sometimes when that stuff's in there, it creates a little bit more damage, and that's why they want to try to get stuff like that out if they can.
Yeah, thankfully there's no bone chips or anything in my shoulder. Yeah, so I mean it's just kind of like the only kind of issues I've dealt shoulder wise are just kind of in the lat. And like like I said, they're nothing major. I've tried to see just about every doctor there is to try to figure out, kind of why there was a small reoccurrence of an injury keep happening. There's no surgery required for any of this. Just kind of like just like tweaking your hammy just barely. You can't run at full speed. You're kind of figuring out. You're just trying to figure out why it keeps happening, and that's kind of what we've been doing. And everybody we spoke with, we all kind of came back to the same conclusion of having the bone spurs in there and the elbow not being able to get to full extension. And if you can't get out there and fully extend, well, what muscle slows down your arm when you're throwing? It's your lat. So, if you can't get out there to extension, you can't slow your arm down quick enough. Your lat's firing twice as hard. It's having to work just as much. So it's all kind of come back to the same conclusion. So, getting these bone spurs out, it's been a huge relief. You know, hopefully this is all behind us and in the past. We're going to learn from it. obviously you don't want to go through a season like I had last year where you don't even throw an inning, but you can kind of just really look back and reflect and change your program and figure out what you need, what you don't need, and just move on.
Okay, so a play on words because I'm an idiot. The chip on your shoulder was not in your shoulder; it's a chip in your shoulder. The chip on your shoulder. You're going to have a chip on your shoulder
Oh,
for pitching next year.
yeah, for sure, yeah, definitely circling the Orioles on the calendar if I get to pitch against them. Obviously I only get to throw against those guys in spring training. Um, and that's definitely heated. There's a lot of trash talk that goes on. I love talking crap to them about it. So seeing them, in the box, real game, it's gonna be fun for me for sure. So, I'm not gonna say I'm gonna hit anybody, but I mean, I don't know. Maybe want to let loose at somebody. Not gonna name any names. I'll leave that out there for them. Try to scare them a little bit.
I
Yeah, it's gonna
love that.
it's gonna be super fun. It's gonna be super fun to pitch against them.
That's all. And talking about pitching too, man, you have a great arsenal of pitches. In 2024, you doubled pretty much your curveball usage. This off season? Is there going to be something else different that you want to, get after and use during the season, or it's going to be, your daily of what here it is, you see it and what you get?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'll depend a lot on kind of how I'm feeling that day, what's kind of going in the bullpen, maybe kind of what the lineup's going to show us. And I think in Baltimore, a lot of that stuff is kind of already determined before the game starts. Now, sometimes it works, sometimes it goes really wrong. Um, but like I said, it'll be good to just kind of be with Maddox, who's you know, I'm not going to say an old school guy, but doesn't lean as heavy on analytics and just go out there and pitch, man. It's going to be so much fun.
Does he talk to you anything about because you said he said, hey, there's one thing that we wanted to work on. Has he mentioned anything about innings since you didn't throw it all this year, but you said he's old school? Old school guys are like, here's the ball, Grayson, go throw. And I know Maddox a little bit from the 2 weeks that he was a pitching coach where I was, but do you think there's any kind of innings limit? Do you feel that on yourself without the team even saying anything?
I mean, I have no idea. I'm gonna be honest with you. Hadn't had any kind of conversations like that. I'm not saying that there won't be any conversations about it. I'm sure there will be. But right now, I mean, we haven't talked about that. Right now, just focused on getting ready, making sure we show up to spring training healthy, and ready to throw. I think that's, kind of at the front. We might worry about the innings limit or whatever. If there is one, we'll worry about that down the road when we get there. But right now, just focus on being an Angel and getting my arm ready to go back out and throw.
And Grayson, we got those dates. You might know them already, but June 22 to 24, Orioles at Angels. August 4 to 6, Angels are in Baltimore. So you got a little time. You get nice and cozy with the new team, and then you'll get a little Baltimore on the calendar a couple different times this year, which will be nice. But I mean, I know it's way
Yep.
far ahead. It's in August, but will you have like emotions flowing? I mean, this is your OG organization for a while here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there will be, some extra juices going just because I know those guys, I mean, it just means a little bit more. If you have a buddy step in the box or something, you want to do everything you can to punch him out. Yeah, I mean, I think it'll definitely be fun. There's not going to be any kind of bad blood there, I don't think, just because, the guys in that clubhouse, that's not who trades me. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see when we get there, and I'll definitely be looking forward to it.
Hey, I was doing some homework. So I think you were the actual last first round pick by the previous front office regime, right? You were drafted by Dan Duquette and
Yep.
his group, and then Mike Elias came in. So my question is, do you think that ever kind of affects things where, one group really knows a guy and they're attached to him from the jump versus, another group coming in and just not having that same like original connection?
Yeah, I mean, for sure. I think, you kind of see it with one of my good buddies, DL Hall. He was in the draft before me, so obviously a Duquette guy. He was traded. There really wasn't a whole lot of guys from my draft class that have made it to the big leagues. I know Drew Rom was one. He was also traded. So yeah, I mean, I guess you can kind of look back and see like, okay, these guys were in the organization, with the previous regime. And most of them are gone. I think the only ones left, I think there's only three, if I'm not mistaken, and that's going to be Ryan Mountcastle, Keegan Aiken, and Felix Bautista. I think are the only three that are still there from the pre-Michael Elias era. You might have to fact check me on that, but yeah, I don't know. It might have something to do with it. It might not. But that's something that we've kind of joked around about too sometimes.
Now, when you get traded, you got to go through physicals and evaluations and medical stuff. Did you do that already? So all that's taken care of? Everything went well with that, especially, with your arm and everything?
No, I mean, I got a call that said, "Hey, you've been traded to the Angels. Like that, this is it. It's done deal." So, yeah, there's nothing. There's no physicals. I was talking about that with my dad
Great.
yesterday. He was asking me about that, and I was like, "No, I mean, yeah, we're good to go." So,
Perfect. Awesome.
Okay. Wait, so Grayson, what's next off the field here? You mentioned how there's some gorgeous weather. You certainly got traded to a nice spot in terms of living your life outside of baseball. How does your off season change with the location change for the fam?
I mean, obviously, never been to an Arizona spring training. Excited about that. I guess we'll have to worry about finding a place to stay for that first. And then, hadn't really, obviously, I don't know the first thing about Los Angeles. I don't know if there's any white-tailed deer there. If there are, I'd love it. But I don't know.
You got to ask.
I really don't know much
Trouty.
about it. The only time I've been to LA, played there in high school once. There was like a tournament, and then just the times that we've played against the Dodgers and the Angels when I've been with the Orioles. So that's literally the only times I've been over there. Weather was fantastic. But yeah, I mean, I really don't know much about it right now. So gonna be learning about it soon, I'd imagine.
Last question here. You talk about white-tailed deer. First off, Mike Trout, big time hunter. So maybe talk to him about it. Have you had a conversation with him yet at all?
Yeah, I've had a few conversations with Trout over the last year or so. We got some mutual friends. Obviously, huge Eagles fan. Boo.
Boo.
I actually hunt a bunch with two of the former Eagles players. Um, so got some Eagles connections with some friends up there in Philly. I'm from Texas. I'm not going to say I'm a Cowboys fan. Definitely watching the game every Sunday, though. I'm watching the Cowboys. So that week one of the NFL season, Cowboys Eagles in Philly, there's definitely some messages from Mike Trout about the matchup. So yeah, been talking to Trout for a little while about hunting and stuff, sharing some game camera pictures with him and whatnot. And yeah, I guess now we're teammates. So maybe he'll invite me to hunt his place, and I'll invite him to hunt my place.
Yeah.
You never know.
And find a way to get him back into the playoffs. What do you say about that?
Absolutely, man. I know I was asked about it. They're like, well, what are your views on, October baseball? And I'm like, the goal's to be in October. It doesn't matter who you're playing for. That's the goal. And then, if you don't get there, you failed. So that's definitely going to be the goal. And I think we can do it. I mean, when I was with the Orioles in 23, we went from winning, I think it was like maybe 80 games, 78, 80, 82, I don't know, whatever the number was, to like winning 101. Like it just, boom, like it just happened. And that's kind of the cool thing, seeing that can happen, that can take place. We won the division in 23. I think it's definitely attainable in LA with the Angels.